Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, as people would know who've been following my channel for a bit, I have been using an imaging rig in Spain, and as a result that has given me access to Northern Hemisphere targets. Now, when I started this back at the beginning of the year, I was talking to James, who I'm sure everybody will know as DSO Imager, and we were discussing the idea of doing a collaboration on a Northern Hemisphere target. Now, when we talked about this, we were just going into galaxy season, so we thought we would wait until the nebula came back round again, and anyway, we finally got round to doing the collaboration on SH2-126. So this is what this video is about.
Hey, how's it going, Logan?
Good.
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you, yes. Yeah.
Cool. Let me move the Zoom session to the other monitor. That way I'm at least partially facing the camera.
Oh yeah, fair enough. So you're on a 4-week straight of clear nights, eh?
Oh man, I can't believe how clear it's been. So when we were first talking about this project, how long ago was that? 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we picked out this target. It's been a clear night every night since.
Yeah, well, actually, fortunately, it coincided with having very clear nights in Spain. So I was actually imaging, well, say every night, so every day for me here. That was easy enough, and it's all working quite well over there now that I've switched it over to Nina. So we talked about doing a collab like beginning of the year or something, wasn't it? But it was just
it's been a while.
Season. I think we went straight into galaxy season for the Northern Hemisphere, and it was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. We'll wait until it gets back to nebula season. So we finally got there. So this target we did, SH2-126. So I hadn't heard of it until you mentioned it. So is it a bigger thing than, like, I've seen some shots from further out? Is it bigger than our FOV, or are we sort of focused more on the central part?
That whole area is it's a huge complex. It's definitely a more challenging target. The one that we worked on, most of the pictures that I've seen were really wide. And, I mean, we're both using small scopes, wide field scopes, but we got a much tighter view on this. And I was curious to see how good the detail we were going to get on that gecko.
But the HA has this, I mean, particularly when you look at, and it's in what you've captured, but when you look at the wide field shots as well, you can see there's quite a massive amount of HA, and it's quite a cool looking, like a velvety curtain waving in the background, and when it's got the dark nebula over the top. So that's quite, and that's why I quite like. That's why I did the when I saw somebody had done the cocoon with all the HA in the background, I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. So when you suggested this one, I thought, oh, this will be great again. The problem was, after we did it and we got the data, I was like, what did I do for the cocoon nebula? Okay, so let's have a look at the data that we collected. Now, the total integration time was just over 74 hours. James collected the HA. That was agreed that he would collect the HA because he was in a higher bortle scale, and I would do the LRGB as I was in a lower border scale in Spain. And so James collected just over 38 hours of HA. He did 15-minute exposures. I collected just over 35 hours of LRGB, and I also later collected sort of 45 minutes each of red, green, and blue for stars. Now, for the luminance, I collected 5-minute exposures. For the red, green, and blue, I actually did a combination of 5 and 10-minute exposures. I think in retrospect, I probably should have just stuck with the 5-minute ones, because I think the 10-minute ones did make some of the stars get a little bit on the bloated side. And they were producing a little bit of a starburst effect that was having just a bit of an effect on the nebulosity. But anyway, that's what I did. So let's just have a look at the data. So here is the green, and you can see it showing up the little lizard here, or the little gecko. There's a bit more showing up around over here. And I don't know if it'll show on the green. You can see on the green, this is see this little sort of effect that's coming out. Hopefully this will show up on YouTube, but there's a bit of a starburst effect down here, which mightn't have been so prominent if I'd just done 5-minute exposures. But anyway, they weren't too bad. But that was the green, this was the blue, and it's showing a bit more sort of in the background, but again, highlighting the nice dust here. And the red, which again, we've got the little gecko. Now we're starting to show some of that nice rich HA region in the background, which is being picked up by the red filter as well. The luminance here was, again, you know, quite a lot of detail, picking up a lot of stuff in the background, but also really highlighting this little lizard over here. Now, if we look at the HA, this is, you can see all this nice HA here, and you can see the little head of the lizard there just being sort of highlighted on the edge by the HA, but otherwise it's kind of, you're not really seeing much of it in here. There's might be a hint of it just over here. But it seems that the HA is really just sort of mostly here. There is probably a bit of dribbling of the HA going on back down here, but when you zoom in, a lot of it does seem to be sort of noise with some little galaxies in the background. And looking at images on Astro, it does seem that this is where the HA is. A lot of this is sort of not particularly prominent in HA, but this HA extends quite an extensive way sort of up here and over this way. It's quite a large structure, and this is only a very small part of it that we've zoomed in on. So this was what I wanted to sort of accentuate without too much of this background, which was hard to determine how much was noise and how much was HA. If we just step forward and we remove the stars, you can start to see the nice sort of waves or folds of a nice sort of, I don't know, a bit like a velvet blanket of HA. Some areas stretching over here, and this is sort of more akin to noise, I think. But there might be some HA in there as well, I think. You can see little brighter areas in here as well, but this is what I wanted to accentuate. What do we do next? I stretched it and just made this area just here a little bit darker, and some noise exterminator, some local histogram equalization there just to sort of increase the contrast between the different areas in the HA. So that's where the HA got to. Now with the LRGB, if we just have a look here, this was the combination. You can see a bit of green in the background. Some nice star colors there. You can see the dust here, which is quite nice. And there is a bit of dust through here and down here and over here, and a bit more trailing down there. But we can start to see these HA areas being picked up in the red filter. So if we just step through here quickly, did some SCNR just to remove that green, and then some background neutralization just to sort of make things look a little bit more neutral in the background, hence the name. Now, what have we got? Star Exterminator. Did that. You can see it's a little bit motley, but you can start to see the dust a lot better now, and you can see all the little small galaxies that are in the background, which Star Exterminator very cleverly leaves behind. And we can see bits of dust through here, and these will show up in the final image, but there's a lot of HA in the background here, so you need to zoom in to sort of see them. If we come forward here and did some stretching, and we'll just bring that back to there. So that's stretched, and then a bit more noise exterminator, and a bit more local histogram equalization again, just to sort of show up a bit more of the contrast in the dust. Again, just sort of darken the background a bit with a histogram transformation rather than using curves on this particular instance. A bit more noise exterminator, because every time I'm sort of doing something, it's creating a bit of noise. And then it was a matter of putting that in holding pattern until I created my luminance. So I just put that aside for a minute. And this is the luminance data here. So Star Exterminator, you can see all the dust showing up here, but also, you know, some noise, some of the dust and a bit of noise in here. It was just trying to make these areas that were clearly dust separate out from what could be noise in the background, or probably is. And if we just step forward, I think I just did some stretching there, not too much, so that I didn't sort of bring up too much in the background there. And then a bit more work just to sort of highlight the dust without accentuating the background there a bit. And some curves work just to bring this up a bit further without, again, trying to bring this up too brightly, the background. And then some noise exterminator, just a little bit, because it was a little bit noisy. Some more local histogram equalization. As you can see, it's brought out a bit more contrast in the dust, and a bit more histogram transformation just to sort of bring down the background a bit. And it's kind of got to this point, and then it was a matter of combining it with the RGB. And if I just step forward here, it's just brought it and defined this a bit better. It sort of evened things out a bit in the background, and made the dust stand out a little bit more. So the next thing was to somehow try and get this lovely HA, which I think is here, all this to show up in the background here without overrunning everything. I did try continuum subtraction of the method I usually use for galaxies, etc., but it didn't seem to work in this case. It certainly sort of hid this, but the whole thing kind of turned very bright in the background. So, you know, it would have turned everything in the background here red. So that didn't work so well. So what I did was I went into Photoshop, and I'll show you what I did there. So here is the LRGB brought in, and did a bit of work with the, come up here, filter, if we to the camera raw filter, and just sort of tweak things a little bit, brought out so the dust had a bit more of that sort of nice brown dust look and brightened it up a little bit. And then a bit more work just to make things a little more dark in the background, but keep this nicely standing out. And then I wanted to add in the HA. So here's the HA, I think, here, which I brought in, and just sort of smooth things up a little bit, darken this area, which is, you know, was a mixture of noise and maybe a little bit of HA, but I didn't really want this to sort of turn the whole thing red. So I really wanted to accentuate this and this little rim over here of the nose of the lizard. And I basically made a layer and I popped it in here. Now, obviously, when you put it in like that and it's grey, it's just going to overrun everything. And I obviously don't want that as grey. I want it to have that nice red colour. So I put in a curves layer here, and then what you basically do, you can see this little arrow down here. Let me just remove that for a second. When you go to here and you click that you want to add in a curves, this bit here, if you want it to only affect this layer here and not the whole thing, you just hold down Alt until you see that little arrow, and then you click on that, and now any change to that will only be to that layer. Now I need to get this nice and red, so go into the curves, go into RGB, and we'll leave the red one right at the top. The green one, I'm going to drag it right down to the bottom, and it's ugly purple color, and then the blue one, and bring that down. Now we've got a really nice deep red color here. Now, obviously, you can adjust this to whatever you like. You can bring that up if you want to have a much more sort of a deeper reddish, purplish or pink look. Or if you want to, let's go to green. If you drag this up here, you can sort of make it that more sort of not quite so deep, maybe a little bit more of a lighter red, or even go to an orange if you want to, and just vary those as you like. But I wanted to get a nice deep red color. So that's fine, but now of course this is all we can see. So the next thing was to actually change this to screen. So screening it in a bit like you do with the stars. So if we just run down around to screen, and suddenly it all pops in nicely to the background, and we've still got all our dust in the foreground and the dust here. It was a little bit bright down here, and I actually did a bit more work on this just to sort of just give a bit of depth to the darker areas here and the HA and the little dusty gecko there. So if we just go back to PixInsight, let's pull this away, ended up with this, which I quite liked. It showed the HA where it seemed to be, represented in a lot of other images that I've seen. If I just go to, let's bring up Astro bin, and you can see here we've got, as soon as I put this over, you can see the little gecko is over here, and this area is all very dark. The same with this one here, it's all dark down here, but there is abundant HA. This is a very large HA area, which we only captured a very small area of. So that's where I got to, and then it was a matter of working on the stars. Now I actually used SETI Astro's one of his many scripts he's got available. I mean, check out his channel. He's made an amazing array of scripts that you can use for making processing easier. One I do quite like is, many I like, but Star Stretch I quite like. And I use that often for stretching the stars. It seems to retain the color quite nicely, and you can do a bit of a color boost right there. You can remove the green, you can show a preview, and then the stretch amount. And I find for some cases, a stretch amount of 5 is perfect for the number of stars present. For others, I bring it down to 4 or 3.5 if I really want to sort of de-accentuate those stars. But I can't remember what I used on this. It might have been a 5, but I ended up pretty much with this. And I think a bit of curves just to sort of increase the color a bit more. And then it was a matter of using the rescreen stars pixel math, and ended up with this final version here, which I was quite happy with. And as I mentioned, despite all the HA in the background, if you zoom in, you can still see the dust floating around in there quite nicely. It still shows up. And, you can get a hint of, it sort of gets a little overrun here, but there is bits of dust which you can see in front of the HA here. And then there's all these galaxies, which are quite cool. You can have a look and zoom around, and, there's galaxies there. And if I zoom down here, there's a galaxy, galaxy, galaxy. They're all over the place in this particular field of view. So that was my interpretation of the data, and obviously James did his own processing of it and did his interpretation of the data. And that's the great thing about doing collaborations. You've got the choice. You can either have one person process it, which is what happens with the group that I'm in with the Deep Sky Collective and the New Horizons group. It tends to be one person does the processing for all the people who've collected the data, or you can both produce your separate images and then combine them and get the best of both worlds, or you can do completely separate images. And that's the joy of doing collaborations and seeing the different way people process things and the way they interpret the data. So that was my version of SH2-126. Right, well, look, I hope you enjoyed that video. It was certainly great doing a collaboration with James. Anybody who follows his channel knows he does amazing deep sky imaging, so it was really good to be able to combine our resources and come up with a good number of hours on this target. Now, just to sort of clarify the target a little bit better, the emission nebula in the background, all the HA stuff, is actually SH2-126, whereas the sort of dusty dark nebula is LBN 437, and that's commonly known, my understanding, as the Gecko Nebula. So those are the two components of this particular image. We were kind of centered on the Gecko because that's the way our field of view worked for the two telescopes. And look, I hope you enjoyed watching the processing, or maybe picked something up from how I processed my image. It was sort of a new way of doing it, incorporating the HA. Normally I'm doing continuum extraction like we commonly do when you're sort of incorporating HA perhaps into some broadband data on a galaxy, but in this particular instance it didn't seem to work very well, and I'm wondering if that was because I had such a large area of HA in the background. But screening it in through Photoshop seemed to work pretty well, and it's something I'm going to try again in the future with other targets, and who knows, it might become part of my normal workflow. We'll have to wait and see how well it goes in future projects. And look, until next time, I wish you all lots and lots of clear skies.